If you get in an accident, immediately call 911. Get the ambulance there. Get the police officer there.
These days, it's not like 15 years ago. Like every building now has cameras.
Hello, welcome guys over here at the D4A Personal Injury Show. I'm your host, Jean-Paul Anderson, and I'm sitting here with Nicole Anderson and
Hi,
our
guys.
special guest. Guess what, guys? We got Paul Aghabala from Prestige Law, located over in Encino. Mr. Aghabala practices personal injury as well as business law, and I believe some other stuff. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Paul Aghabala from Prestige Law Firm. Quick correction, we are in Sherman Oaks and Palmdale. And yes, we specialize in personal injury law. We do some employment law and some workers' compensation cases as well. So nice to see you both again.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for coming. We
Yeah.
really
course.
appreciate you being here
Great.
and helping us and with all the information that you have.
Great person. You've known Paul for quite a while.
I think I've known Paul for maybe about a year or two, maybe, give or take.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while. I know his mom really well.
Yeah.
She's like my own mom. I love
Yeah.
her.
That's what a lot of
And
people
the
say.
whole family, yes. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today we're going to be talking a lot about personal injury and the crossover between personal injury and work comp, and we're going to be asking some of the questions regarding how that happens. And first, let's get to know our guests.
That was actually my first question is, so Paul, what made you become a lawyer?
Thank you for asking that. So it started really early for me. I'm from Iran, and when I was younger, I was about 4 or 5, the revolution happened.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the new regime wasn't really good with minority groups, people of different religion, and they really discriminated against a lot of people, including my family. And I was a young, 4 or 5 years old, helpless. I couldn't really do anything about what they were doing with our family. And from that point on, I had a thing about injustice, about people who can't take care of themselves and someone's doing something bad to them. And I had this passion about wanting to defend people. And then in college, the OJ trials happened. And I was so mesmerized by it. I was pre-med. I was going to be a doctor, actually. But I was so mesmerized that I decided to become an attorney.
I think everybody was mesmerized by that
It was-
trial.
yeah,
I
that
remember
trial
watching
really
that
was
with my
crazy.
dad, just like.
Unreal, huh?
Yeah, if it doesn't fit, you got to quit. I mean, it was really interesting. Correct.
So what would make someone choose your law firm compared to someone else? What's something that you do different?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a lot of law firms out there, and I feel like they treat the clients as a number, as a kind of, it's like a headache. Let us get as many cases as we can, get through them as quickly as possible, make as much money as we can. We're not like that. My philosophy is every client is super important. They need the attention of an attorney like me. Mm-hmm. And what happens is when you choose us, I personally will interview the client. I personally make sure that the case is going the way it should go. And we give it personal attention that I feel is lacking from some other
Huge.
firms
Yeah,
out there.
big time.
Okay.
And our philosophy is we want to maximize the compensation for our clients over anyone else's needs. So that's what I think our firm is different, and our philosophy is a little different. Our clients is basically kind of like our family. That's how we treat them.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I was actually on your website the other day, and I was looking through it, and I was reading about
We
you
have a
and everything.
stalker.
I was being, we call it, in marketing, we call it research, right?
Right.
Other people say it's stalking, which honestly, maybe it is, but, But I was looking through your website. You have a beautiful website. You're obviously on the right track. You're doing all your marketing, and you got all your information on there, optimized and everything. Big kudos to you.
Thank you.
One of the things that I really caught my attention was your case studies and testimonials. And I saw that you had some really big numbers up there, that you have settled some pretty huge cases. What has been your biggest case that you've settled so far?
Yeah. So I've settled several 7-figure cases. But I was sitting down about 2 years ago, and I set goals for myself. And I'm like, it would be cool to settle an 8-figure case, which is really, a lot of firms don't even get a case like that. And then I did end up with a case which I settled 8 figures, which I'm so proud of.
Wow.
It
Yeah,
was a
congrats.
combination of thank you.
Winning applause
Thank you.
there.
Yes.
Congratulations.
It was a combination of workers' comp and personal injury. We got 8 million from the workers' comp. We got 2 million from the civil portion of it. And actually, the case still continuing, believe it or not.
Wow.
There's a manufacturer that now we found that may have some fault. So
Oh,
I was
gosh.
really proud of the 8-figure settlement.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I know a lot of general public, everybody that's watching, doesn't really know the difference between work comp and personal injury. Can you kind of explain? Because say, for instance, you had that case and there's two portions to it, workman's comp and PI. Can you kind of explain the difference between the two?
Absolutely. So I started out my career doing workers' comp defense. I was defending insurance companies, and I hated it. But I learned so much, and throughout my career, I have handled workers' comp cases. Essentially, any time when someone gets injured during the course and scope of their employment, that is a workers' comp case. And it doesn't matter if the injuries were caused by the employee themselves, if they were at fault. As long as there's injury and there's employment, there's a workers' comp case. The cases that I handle where there's overlap is when someone other than the employer causes injuries to an employee during the course of his or her employment. So there's now two cases. There's the civil aspect from that third party,
Right.
and then the person has a workers' comp case. Someone who knows both areas of law can maximize recovery for the client, because the workers' comp insurance carrier is entitled to receive some of the money we get from the civil case. And knowing how to navigate that and negotiate and set it up, you can maximize it for the client.
Okay.
Amazing. Yeah, that truly is amazing. Now, how does a business owner protect themselves? I mean, there's a lot of people out there probably wondering, like, oh my God, this prestige law is going to come after me if something happens, right?
Especially
So-
bar owners when you get a little crazy.
Because you do, I believe you also practice business law, right?
We do some business
Some business
litigation. I had a big verdict for a business litigation, which was a 7-figure verdict. That's another thing I'm proud of. I've had 2 7-figure verdicts where I've actually tried the case and received the big verdicts. In terms of business owners, when it comes to workers' comp, definitely get your insurance, workers' comp insurance. I know sometimes it could be expensive. The problem is if you don't have the insurance, then there's a government agency called the Uninsured Employers Fund. They will come in and defend the case, but will come after you and your assets if you don't have insurance. And workers' comp defense just costs so much money. So definitely get your insurance. As well as, get your civil, your general liability insurance as well. So if someone gets injured at your premise or at your place of business,
Yeah.
you're well protected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so another thing that I was reading online is that even when, explain a little bit about like employee versus independent contractor and how it works when someone's out driving, maybe delivering groceries or delivering things like that. Like, how does that work?
That's a very good question, and there's been some recent developments in terms of case law, in terms of what's an independent contractor and an employee. A lot of times, employers, in order to save taxes, perhaps, categorize someone as an independent contractor, even though in reality they're not. And there are several factors that go into what is the difference between an employee and independent contractor. But generally, and to make it simple, is the level of control, right? So if an employer asserts level of control in terms of when do you have to work? What are your time hours? Where are you sitting? What tools are you using? What breaks can you take? Typically, that's an employee relationship.
Right.
And in California, I can tell you that, especially in workers' comp arena and other arenas, courts typically find people to be employees rather than independent contractor. Again, because the employer is asserting a level of control
Right.
over what the employee is doing. And so that's another area I think business owners, employers need to be careful. If you're asserting control over what your employee is doing, you need to categorize them as an employee.
How do you pick your with going back to like personal injury, right? So how do you pick your cases? Like what I guess in a way that both ways. So looking at it from a good case to like a bad case.
Right.
How do you choose your cases? Like, is there any type of way that you do it?
Yeah, I like to interview the client and I like to see what they've been through. To me, there isn't really any bad cases. It's what level of impact and injury has caused for a client. You know, some attorneys may say, well, if the property damage is less than like 1,000 or is low, we don't take it. I don't look at it that way because even in a low impact case, there could be severe injuries depending on the age and things of that nature. We like to really interview the potential client. We like to get the facts. And basically, if we see there's an impact on their lives, injuries on their lives, that's the case we take.
So what's something you suggest to someone who's been involved in a personal injury, say for instance, car accident? What do you suggest for them to do, like right after they've hired you?
Right.
What's something that you would suggest?
Listen to what we say. But that's a good question in terms of what should they do as soon as they get into an accident, right?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of times where someone hits our client, the person comes out, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I have insurance. I know a body shop. I'll take care of it. And then they go back to their insurance company when they report it and say, they lie. Oh my God, he came to my land. It's totally their fault. So everyone has a smartphone nowadays. If someone is coming and saying, it's totally my fault, I'll fix everything. I'll pay for it. Do you mind if I video you? You can audio record them, right? That's in California. That's not admissible. But you could video them. So just pick it up and say, sure. Do you mind if I video what you're saying? And look at their attitude. Yeah. I would say if you get in an accident and you feel pain, immediately call 911. Get the ambulance there. Get the police officer there so that the information can be exchanged. Yeah. I would also look for witnesses. If there are witnesses, I know you're in pain, you're shocked. The last thing in your mind is trying to figure out, getting evidence, gathering evidence. But witnesses are super important. So if you see someone who saw it, stop them, get their information so that if the other person lies, you have a witness. And then the other thing I would recommend is look to see if there's surveillance cameras.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Like these days, it's not like 15 years ago. Like every building now has cameras.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that has
Every
saved
gas station, everywhere has cameras. Even from like recording on the inside, security can sometimes see out the window to the street. So
correct. I've had a lot of cases where the other person lies and we get the video camera and it shows that they're completely lying. And the insurance companies denied the case first, but then when they see the surveillance, they admit it and we can settle the case. So those are my recommendations. Don't talk to anyone before you consult an attorney. I think that's important because sometimes they may ask you questions in a way where they record it and it might be used against you later. Definitely talk to an attorney.
Yeah, the insurance kind of blows up your phone right away too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've experienced, whenever I've been into an accident, my first phone call is my parents or my family or my sister or something to help me, right?
Yeah.
But you are right. You should look for a witness. I think even having like maybe a dash cam helps, right?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good idea.
I love what Tesla's doing with all their camera equipment that they have around. Have you seen the Tesla records like literally throughout the entire day, everything that's going on?
There was a lady that keyed a Tesla and it's like all over YouTube now by her just walking past because the lady like took her parking spot. It constantly records.
A family member of mine was parked and then when he comes, he sees that there's a huge dent to the back of his car.
Gosh, yes.
So he gets the camera and he sees some guy just driving, hitting it, getting out, looking and just driving away.
Man.
But he got the information to be able to give to the police. The other thing also is sometimes when you have a case and you don't have an attorney, the insurance companies will call you and try to settle your case right away. And 100% of the time, they will lowball you. They will not give you what the value of the case is. They just want to quickly pull a fast one on you. That 8-figure case that I'm telling you about, I was shocked. My client told me that the insurance company got to her house and offered her $50,000 to settle her case.
Wow.
And she was smart enough to say no. And then, we ended up getting a 8-figure settlement
I've
for it.
heard
So,
I've heard with some of my friends that have gotten in like small fender benders insurance will be like, oh, are you okay? Like, let me give you like $300. You can go get, some chiropractic treatment done. And it's like, they don't know. Like, unless you're kind of in the industry or you're watching our YouTube channel and learning, a lot of people don't know. And this happens a lot as insurance will call and they'll, here, let me give you $300.
Well, I mean,
go get a massage. And it's
right.
like,
yeah.
what's going to happen a month from now when you still hurt?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the insurance business is also like, they're in the business of making money, right? So you pay all these premiums. And so, right. So it's like, they're going to do whatever it takes to negotiate bills down and stuff like that, or demands down, I believe it's called.
Correct.
And, it's part of the nature, I guess. So
yes.
maybe hiring a good attorney like yourself, could break through those walls
Absolutely.
and prove injustice and all that good stuff. And yeah,
absolutely. And Nicole, you use the term of art, these little fender benders, which I think insurance companies must have created.
They all say it like.
I was like, oh, yeah. Just because, and this is so important, and there's a lot of scientific research on this. Just because the damage to the car is minor doesn't mean that the person who was involved in the car didn't get some kind of injury. These insurance companies have this thing, oh, it was low impact, oh, it was a fender bender, so there shouldn't be injuries. But you don't know the person who's inside the car, you don't know if they've had other issues in the past that could be aggravated, their body position, there are people who get out of bed sometimes and get injured. So this notion that it was a low fender bender, therefore you shouldn't be injured, is something I'm constantly fighting with insurance companies because it's not true.
Right.
That's the way they tell you with those phone calls.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, let me just
or
do some-
soft tissue or those type
exactly.
of things.
Yeah,
right.
it happens with like an older lady. I think my grandma got into an accident. She was in her late 70s and she got really injured. It was just a small little tap and she was like waddling around for months.
That's exactly right.
I actually have a great question for you that I just was thinking. So does it affect someone's case if they have I think it's called a pre-existing injury? How does that work?
That's another good question. In my view, it actually, it helps them if they have a pre-existing injury that was aggravated. Where sometimes clients get into trouble is they're not totally 100% truthful about the pre-existing medical issues, and then they either give a deposition and they deny it and it comes out, something like that. I tell my clients, if you had an injury, if you had some kind of issue that was aggravated, please tell your doctors, please be upfront for it, because the law allows for aggravation of injuries. You've heard this term eggshell plaintiff, right?
Yes.
So the law allows you compensation if you were an eggshell plaintiff and you were injured because you were an eggshell. You were more susceptible to injury.
Okay.
Just be honest about it.
Right. Of course.
Don't try to hide it.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Do you have any other questions? Oh, so regarding your defense. When you were practicing the
that was going to be my question. What made you switch?
Yeah. So what happened, and how did you get into defense?
Right. To be honest with you, I've never been a defender of insurance companies or defense. When I got out of law school, I think it was in 2001, the job market wasn't greatest, and I was looking, and this is an opportunity that came by, and I wasn't happy. I did it for 2 years. Now, don't get me wrong. There are cases where someone, is not injured or they're just trying to take advantage of the system, especially workers' comp. But so I did it for 2 years and then I came back doing personal injury. But in that 2 years, I learned a lot of things. And that's why I was able to settle this 8-figure case because of my experience that I gained in those 2 years, which kind of taught me, even if you don't see in the future, like if you're doing something and learning, you never know when that can come back to help you or you can utilize it. If I hadn't done that, I would have never learned about workers' comp, and I don't think I would have gotten the 8-figure settlement. So
that's very smart.
Yeah.
All right. So last question, which is I know a lot of people are probably curious about, do you have some kind of tradition or what's it called? Like
a ritual?
A ritual before going in? Like, do you wear the same like socks every time before going into trial, or like the same underwear? Like, maybe you have some lucky green ones or something. Like, a lot of people ask that because,
Yeah.
It's curious. I like, before I come here to film, I'm always like listening to super loud music in the car and trying to have some caffeine in me, and like that's my kind of before filming.
I actually do. So the day of trial, I want to get into a mindset where first I'm going to win because I'm super competitive. And how do I inspire? So I wake up super early in the morning, and one of my favorite things to do, which is kind of weird, but it just gives me a lot of inspiration. I'm a big fan of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And his speech, I Have a Dream. I've listened to it a million times, and I've gotten some good quotes from it. One of my favorite quotes of him is, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And I listen to it, and I get in this mindset that, okay, now I'm ready to go inspire, to advocate for my client. And throughout the trial, I keep listening to it. And it really inspires me and makes me feel like, okay, we're doing something important. And it's not just about putting on the evidence and the facts. It's inspiring, telling a story, and getting justice for the client, which is really important to me. So that's what I do. And I try to run and do a little, exercise because it's so stressful. Yeah, I don't sleep that much when we have trial. I'm constantly preparing and adjusting and changing. So that's one of my fun things to do.
So we're going to test you right now. Can you stand up and do the whole "I Have a Dream" speech?
We're
gonna test him at the end.
I don't want to do injustice to the great Martin Luther King and the way he speaks, but I've memorized most of it. So.
I remember memorizing that in school. I went to an academy and we had to remember like a big portion of it.
Speech, yeah,
it inspires me.
That's awesome. That's a great little ritual to get going. So,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Do I
have one? I do. I mean, not before trial, obviously, but before filming. I used to get really nervous, and a lot of people don't know this about me, but I have a little bit of social anxiety. Now, every time I tell that to somebody,
I know this.
They don't believe me. They're like, "No way! Like you? Like, oh, well, yeah, I do." And the way I've learned to deal with it is actually by telling people, So before I film and before I come in for filming, I usually listen to something on YouTube that motivates. And I've heard Martin Luther King's speeches because it's, remixed into a lot of the different stuff. Yeah. And believe it or not, that's what really fires me up and gets me going and kind of just relief. And if you haven't tried,
we have something in common. But Jean-Paul, can I tell you, no one can even tell you have any kind of anxiety.
There you go.
So congratulations. It seems like you worked on it, whatever it was. I also feel not anxiety, but a little bit nervous before a trial and voir dire and talking to the jurors.
Yeah.
So it's good to have things where it grounds you and
exactly.
And,
Absolutely.
I always tell them before we do the big events, the big conferences that go on, I'm like, just have 2 cocktails. You'll be good to go. Let's just have one in the room.
That always works too, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do that before trial.
Yeah.
The judge is not going to be happy.
No.
Let's talk about it.
You get close to the judge and it's like, something smells off.
Could I see you in my office? Yeah. That wouldn't be good.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a pleasure it's been.
Yeah.
Thank you both for
Absolutely.
having me, and I hope we can do this again.
Of course.
Yes, let's do it.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you guys for watching. And again, this is D4A Personal Injury Show. And
don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on this video.
take care, guys.
Bye.
See ya.